With me today for our first Insights discussion is newly appointed President and CEO of Embraer Commercial Aviation, Arjan Meijer. Arjan, thanks for joining us from Amsterdam. Congratulations on your new appointment.
Thank you very much, Arthur.
Yeah, it's good to see you again. Now, Arjan, you have extensive experience in the commercial aviation sector. What do you think the markets are going to look like tomorrow compared to what they're like today and, of course, yesterday?
Yeah, Arthur, well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. It's a great question, and I think we're in a recession which is unprecedented. We've never seen this before. What's more interesting is that each region around the world is in a different phase on the curve, right? So it started in Asia and it rolled to the west through Europe to the US, and then south to the Africas and Latin America. So if you look at all these regions, they're all basically on a different place on the curve. Asia is sort of behind the curve, picking up well in the meantime, whereas if you look at South America and Africa, they're still in the middle of the peak. So it really depends on where you look at the moment. Fortunately, we see some airlines restarting operations as we speak. They're bringing aircraft back into the air because they fully stopped the operation. And the focus for these airlines is actually simple. It's preserving cash. So where normally it's all about straightforward profitability, at this point is getting the operation running again and doing it cash neutral, which are some completely different metrics. But that's not sustainable for the long run. So airlines need to get back to a profitable level, balancing the passenger loads, reinstating the network, connecting the destinations that they have in the network. And that's going to be the challenging part because we all don't really know how that's going to look with changing behaviors. So the keywords for airlines will be adaptive network and adaptive fleet. They will need to be able to adapt their fleet to the network and adapt their network to the fleet. We'll see going forward that our segment, which has always been able to offer very attractive trip costs for airlines, where we always say you reduce your risk because you don't have to fill those big airplanes. That is really something that we'll see the airlines use going forward. So it's going to be a different future and it's going to be hard to predict.
Do you think passenger behaviour is going to change? And the fact that we can conference like this, does that make business travel a thing of the past?
Well, yeah, first of all, I think at this moment, passengers are hesitant to fly. We've all been in lockdowns all around the world. So the first task for airlines is to restate confidence in travel. And also as an OEM, we are contributing there. We are trying to show that airplanes are safe. Right? I mean, we have excellent ventilation system on board. We have HEPA filters which take away the particles and they also catch the COVID particles. Ventilation which goes top to bottom. So even if people sneeze or cough, the particles come down and move to the floor into the system. So from an industry perspective, we're showing that it's safe. Airlines are starting flying. But people are still hesitant and especially the business travelers. It's not just themselves not traveling, it's also the companies that are restricting people to travel to keep them safe. So there's a lot of dynamics in the market currently, which is just preventing passengers to travel as they used to do. Of course, we have replacements. We have these video calls. They're a bit awkward, right? I mean, I would love to meet you again in person. I mean, we met several times at the air shows. And here we are sitting behind our laptop talking to each other. And that's just a bit odd. The same goes with customers. You can have very functional conversations on these video calls, but what you miss is the non-verbal interactions, is meeting the people, having the informal dinners to talk about something else than just the functional subjects that you want to talk about. So also people want to travel, right? People like to go about the world, but the uncertainty that we see today with COVID, how is it going to recover? When will there be a vaccine? Will there be a second wave? Is the recovery V-shaped, W-shaped, L-shaped, U-shaped? No one really knows. So I think it's just very uncertain. I think in the long run, things will come back, but it will be a different market. But we've lived through many recessions in the past, and what the aviation has shown is that it's very resilient. It will find a new balance. As an OEM, as Embraer, we are ready to help the airlines make that change with the product that we have.
Do you think that rightsizing will be at the forefront of industry conversations?
Yeah, Arthur, very much so. What we've seen in 2001 after 9/11, what we saw in 2008 after the financial crisis, is that the first resort that airlines go to is aircraft that they normally use to grow destinations or to fly their thinner routes in a network. They use those same aircraft to basically manage the risks on each route, flying fewer passengers, lower trip cost. You don't have to take the gamble of not filling all those additional seats. So I would say the E-jets are leading the pack at the moment in the US, in Asia, in Europe. Several airlines are flying the E-jets much more than they fly the bigger narrow bodies, which is a natural response to being able to fly destinations higher frequency with limited loads.
Global emissions have dropped pretty dramatically for obvious reasons during this pandemic. But coming out of it, do you think there'll be a greater need to manufacture more environmentally friendly aircraft?
That's a good question. Well, first of all, it almost sounds like we're not flying now, so CO2 is back to where it should be. But of course, this is just a blip in what the industry and what the world has seen over the last decades. And as a matter of fact, you see it in China. Traffic in the industry is back online and the CO2 levels are back to where we saw it before. So I'm convinced that the global pressure to reduce CO2 and to save the planet is going to be there for sure. And that's evidenced by the fact that funding that's becoming available is being linked to green deals, to green developments. Governments are asking airlines to be more green. You see that not only in Europe, but also in other regions. There's funding which is cheaper if you have a green focus. You have investors that rate airlines better, that focus more on governance and on green and on environmental issues. So going forward, I believe the environment will play a very dominant role in our industry, even more so. And I think this is a catalyst because the governments and all the entities that come out to help the industry get out of this crisis, they use this as an opportunity to force the industry to do better on the green levels. And with our E2, if we compare the E2 to our current E-jets, we're looking at a like-for-like 16 to 17% fuel burn reduction. We're seeing airlines that are replacing E1s, 190s by E2 195s, which are roughly 35% bigger in seats, but which effectively use the same amount of fuel per trip or even less. So which means it allows airlines to grow at a negative carbon footprint with those additional passengers. So that's a very strong aspect, apart from the noise which comes down, right? I mean, on certain airports, more and more on the hubs, you'll see more focus on noise as well. So the E2 does great there. So I think to your previous question about right sizing and about green, I think our E2 family is very well suited for the future.
Yeah, it's been a really, really difficult time. Now, we've already touched on this a little, but where do you see Embraer fitting into this very different world?
Well, fortunately for Embraer, we've always seen an increased appetite for our products after recessions. 2001, 2008 were the two most recent big impacts in our industry. And we've seen that our aircraft being in the 80 up to 150 seat segment, and in the past it was up to 120, 130, but those segments have thrived in down cycles. When airlines start to think again about how do I limit my risk and how do I optimize profits, yeah, our segment offers great opportunities to airlines. So I think as Embraer, even though yes, we're currently, of course, also in challenging situations as our customers are, because we feel what the customers feel. And we're spending all our time to help our customers wherever we can. As I said before, every single region in the world is different. So some regions are still, it's very dark, they're not flying, and we're trying to help where we can. Other regions, airlines are starting to fly again. We see the E-jets taking the lead of the operation. So we're helping them a lot. We see the services coming back up. And going forward, we're ready to engage with these airlines in the peak of the peak to think about how they can act going forward and how we can, with our E2 product or with our existing E-jet product, whether it's new aircraft from the line or whether it's used aircraft that become available, that we can help them get back up the hill, back to better profits. So yeah, I'm confidently looking to the future, even though we're in a pretty dark place at the moment.
Arjan, thank you so much for your time. You've raised some really interesting points for the viewers.
Thank you very much, Arthur. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, see you soon. Take care.
See you soon.
Well, if you've enjoyed watching our Insights discussion, don't forget you can add your comments, and if you've got any questions, you can put them below. But from us, for now, we'll see you again.